What if a government could fall without a formal declaration of war, without an invasion, and sometimes without the public fully understanding how it happened? Through the World Strategy Lab lens, regime change is not simply a political transition. It is a strategic process, a shift in power where a country's leadership is replaced through internal pressure, external influence, or a combination of both. This is the regime change principle, when control of a government becomes the central objective of geopolitical competition. Throughout history, governments have fallen in many ways. Some collapse through revolutions led by their own populations. Others fall through military coups carried out by factions within the state. But in geopolitics, regime change can also occur through quieter forms of influence. Power can shift without armies crossing borders. The most visible form of regime change is a military coup. In these situations, a country's armed forces remove the existing leadership and install a new government. Coups often happen during periods of political instability, economic crisis, or intense public dissatisfaction. Internal pressure creates opportunity. However, geopolitical competition has often added another dimension to regime change: external involvement. During the Cold War, major powers frequently supported political movements, opposition groups, or military factions in other countries in order to influence who governed those states. Influence becomes strategy. The logic behind this approach is simple. If a government in another country aligns with your strategic interests, trade partnerships, military alliances, and diplomatic cooperation become easier. If it aligns with your rival's interests, it becomes a geopolitical obstacle. Leadership shapes alignment. Because of this, powerful nations have historically attempted to influence political outcomes abroad. This influence can take many forms: economic pressure, intelligence operations, political funding, diplomatic maneuvering, or media influence. Pressure reshapes political landscapes. One of the most famous examples discussed in geopolitical studies occurred in Iran in 1953, when political turmoil and external intelligence involvement contributed to the removal of Prime Minister Mohammad Mossadegh and the restoration of the Shah's authority. Another example often cited is Chile in 1973, when political instability, internal divisions, and military intervention led to the overthrow of President Salvador Allende. These events demonstrate how domestic tensions and international competition can intersect. Local crises become global chess moves. Regime change strategies often rely on exploiting internal vulnerabilities within a country. Economic instability, political divisions, corruption scandals, or social unrest can create conditions where leadership becomes fragile. Fragility invites intervention. External actors may then support opposition groups, amplify political narratives, or apply economic pressure designed to weaken the existing government. Narratives shape legitimacy. In the modern era, regime change strategies have evolved beyond traditional coups. Political influence can now flow through digital information campaigns, international sanctions, diplomatic isolation, or support for civil movements. Information becomes a strategic tool, but regime change carries significant risks. When leadership is replaced abruptly, political institutions can weaken, creating instability or power struggles that last for years. Removing a government does not guarantee stability. In some cases, regime change leads to prolonged conflict, civil war, or regional instability if competing factions struggle to control the state. Power vacuums attract competition. Because of these risks, regime change remains one of the most controversial strategies in international politics. Some argue it is necessary to remove authoritarian or hostile governments. Others argue it undermines national sovereignty and can destabilize entire regions. Strategy meets ethics. Regardless of perspective, regime change reveals an important reality of geopolitics. Global power is not only about controlling territory, it is also about influencing who governs. Political influence as power leadership, as strategic alignment, information, as leverage, economic pressure, as strategy. When leadership determines alliances, trade networks, and security partnerships, the control of political power becomes a major strategic objective. Because governments shape the direction of entire nations, and when great powers compete for influence around the world, sometimes the most important battles are not fought on the battlefield. They are fought over who sits in the presidential palace. Subscribe to World Strategy Lab for more strategic systems decoded through geography, conflict, and global power. Because in geopolitics, changing the map is powerful, but changing the leadership can reshape the entire system.